Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swaparandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyatapadakam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagaram Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Stam Om Ganati Manandasya Ganagana Salakya Chaksurin Militam Yanatashmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantara Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surato Pangom Mamamanir Matergati Matsavasha Padam Boja Radharmadana Mohanam Sriman Ravsarasaram Vivamsi Veda Karshan Benayashan Herbako Gopinata Sri Asiraham Divyad Brindaranya Kapadrumada Srimad Radnagara Shima Sanishto Sri Sri Radha Shila Govindra Prasida Bihi Sevi Manishmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chaji Garitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gudavjaja Mangalam Panirikaksho Mangalaya Tanohini Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Vidmahi Vishnu Padishidhimahi Tano Laksmi Prachodhyate Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Day after my birthday, things are back to normal. It was good though. A lot of people wish me through Facebook and cards and emojis, and it was nice. It was very nice. I never thought I'd make it this far. When you fill out things digitally online nowadays, applications so far, they ask you your birth date, and so you pick the month. There's only 12 different items you can scroll through, so you get to the month fairly quickly. Then you get to the day. It's only 30 or 31 items, so you get to the day. So you've done 10 out of 12. You go to 21, October 21st. So you pick one digit out of 30. But then when you get to the year, it's like you got 2024 and you start scrolling, you spin the wheel, you end up at 2015, you spin the wheel, another time it's 1992, you spin the wheel, and then it ends up 81, and you spin the wheel. You get back to the 60s, 64, the year you graduated high school. When you spin the wheel, you get back into the 1950s. F for Ensemblist Junior, Cookie, and then you spin back to the time 1946. You're a baby boomer. It takes forever to get back to your date of birth. And then you think, what a miracle this body is. What other piece of machinery will last for 78 years in fairly good working order? Assume you exercise, you eat well, you keep your spirit in good shape by chanting the names of the Lord and centering your life around the Lord. What other piece of machinery? Computer lasts 7 or 8 years. A car, after 10 years, you want to trade it in because it's going to cost too much money to have it pass safety and inspection. But God has created this organic body of flesh and blood and capillaries and tendons, veins, organs. Somehow it just takes care of itself more or less, purges itself, it cleans itself, it detoxes itself, it re-energizes itself. The heart, the blood goes from the heart and cleans out, it cleans itself as it runs through the body, ejects toxins. 78 years. I stand in awe. I stand in awe. And not just living 78 years, not just the fact that the body's functioning, doing things, feeding itself, providing shelter. It's not just that the body is taking care of the basic survival needs, but really our life, our Krishna conscious life is about so much more than eating, sleeping, mating, defending. That's the least of it. That's the least of it. The fact that the body can deliver all this to us for such a prolonged period of time in the human form of life. You have to just stand with folded hands in complete awe of the Shakti, the potency of the Lord. He's peeled off just a little tiny spark of himself, 1/10,000th the size of the tip of a hair. And you find that spiritual particle, that infinitesimal particle of the Lord within this body. And it's not that the soul gets tired after 70 or 80 years, as we've mentioned before. The soul is still in perpetual motion. There's no beginning or end to the soul, and it's always full with the potency of the soul coming from the potency of God is eternal. It's infinite. There's no limit to it. Old age comes about when the body just gets worn out by having sheathed the soul, by having provided a vessel for the soul for 70 or 80 years. And the soul has been so active, physical, mental, intellectual level, that eventually the body just gets worn out like a sword. Once you take it in and out of the sheath enough times, the sheath is going to get worn out. The soul will just jump to another body. It'll be a baby within a womb. It'll be reset. It'll be full of energy with a fresh new body, and it will use that body just as it's used many, many hundreds, thousands of bodies in the past. It will continue to use many bodies in the future until such time as we become 100% purified in Krishna consciousness. And there'll be no need for the soul to take any more material bodies. Soul can ascend in its original transcendental spiritual body to the spiritual world. And there's no more birth, there's no more death, there's no more change, there's no more old age, there's no more disease. The inner soul continues when the outer body ends, like flame from wood, sparks ascending, transcending dark matter, blending with the sky, invisible to the naked eye. You cannot kill, nor can you die, you cannot burn, nor can you fry. The soul cannot be scorched with any blaze. No water can drown the spirit, no wind can make it fade. You cannot cut another, nor can you bleed. The soul is eternal, unborn, a seed, indivisible, indestructible, forever free from birth, death, old age, and disease. Yet howsoever turned or tossed, the soul can never itself exhaust. Seated in the heart, beating its drum, power in everyone, the soul's superior force lives on and runs its endless course in God's unlimited universe. As a cloud supports the air, spirit support, as the air supports, as the cloud is seated on air, so spirit supports the flesh. Take away the living force, it's just chemicals lying there, a corpse naked and bare, not a twitch or wiggle, not a subtle wink or giggle, can't tickle it or puzzle it with a riddle, deaf, blind, mute, dumb, can't reward it, can't ignore it, can't restore it, deader than a doornail, stiffer than a board, only thing to return it, burn it, bury it, earth to earth, dust to dust, ash to ashes, infirm body versus immortal soul. Learn the difference, conquer ignorance, make a spiritual choice, sing out, give voice, rejoice, make some noise for the spiritual force. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is verse, ninth verse in the third canto of the third chapter of the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. We've run across Brahmane Namanta Shaktaye Anurupaya Urupaya. Lord has Ananta Shakti. He has Shakti means strength, potencies. Ananta means limitless. There's no end to his potencies. Aishwarya Shamagasha Virya Yasha Gyanam Vedas Sanam Bhagamatingana. Parasara Muni defined the absolute truth, that from which everything comes, as being full of wealth, full of strength, full of fame, full of beauty, full of knowledge, and full of humility. Wherever you find strength, you go back, find the source of that person's strength, and the source, and you go back to the unlimitedly strong person. That is Krishna. You find someone who's a Nobel Prize winner, MIT graduate, a PhD with this exceptional, super excellent intellect. They got that intellect from Krishna. Krishna's the intellectual of all the intellectuals. Nobody can claim to be intellectual save and except they didn't get their intellect, they didn't get their big brain from Krishna. Prabhupada used to say, they give Nobel Prizes to people with big brains throughout hundreds of years. And yet they've never given a Nobel Prize to the person who gives the big brains, to the big scientists, the big philosophers. That should be considered. So wherever you see intellectual brilliance, know that that potency comes originally from Krishna. Someone walks into a room, they have the Shakti, they may have the potency of knowledge. Everyone turns around, cranes their neck. They want to snap their pictures. I remember when, who was it? John Huntsman, he was governor and very wealthy man, very accomplished man. He was, I think, ambassador to Singapore, he was ambassador to China under the Bush administration. Very handsome man, speaks Mandarin, drives a motorcycle, plays classical piano. So when he came to the grand opening of the temple here in Spanish Fork in 2001, everybody wanted to get their picture taken with him. Everybody wanted to line up, get his autograph, get their picture taken to him. In fact, there was one lady. This is kind of a long story. I hope you'll forgive me. But at one point, we fired the contractor who was working because he was just making too many mistakes, and then he was charging us 10% for the extra money that he was already wasting. So it became unworkable. And then we reached out to this other person with the contractor's license. Basically, we asked that if we could pay him a small percentage, would he not come on site? At which point, Bobby took over all of the general contracting duties. So this man had not even been on site by arrangement, and he'd been paid a little something. So his wife was dogging Governor Huntsman. She was like getting, I could see she was to the point of annoying him. She kept following him around, and every opportunity, she said, "My husband built this temple. My husband built this temple." Her husband didn't build the temple, but she wanted Governor Huntsman to think that, so maybe he would, send some business his way, send some projects his way or something. But she wouldn't have bothered any ordinary person. But because Governor Huntsman had political power, he was the governor, he had good looks, he had wealth. Someone said that every year that John Huntsman was the governor, he had to forfeit a $2 million salary that he would have ordinarily gotten from his family's business, because it would have been a conflict of interest for him to be governor and take that salary as well as the salary of governor, which couldn't have been more than $100,000. So he was wealthy, he was intelligent, he was talented, he was good looking, he was from a good family. And so this woman just attached herself to him like a pilot fish attacks itself to a bigger fish. And we see that's the case. Someone beautiful walks in the room, everyone cranes their head, wants to take a picture with them, get their autograph. Someone intelligent, brilliant scientist or Nobel Prize winner, same thing. A wealthy person comes into the room. Everybody notices by his dress, his suit, his credit cards, $1,000 glasses, manicure. This man is a very wealthy man, and it just attracts attention. So Krishna is not called Krishna, the all-attractive, by accident. Krishna means the origin, that personality. And these qualities don't come from an impersonal source. These are personal qualities: wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. The source of these qualities cannot be impersonal. Just think about it for a second. It's impossible. These are all personal qualities. Therefore, QED, Om Tat Sat, thanks a lot, the absolute truth is a person. The end of the road when you pursue knowledge, the end of the road when you pursue yoga, the end of the yoga when you pursue asceticism, the end of the road when you pursue righteousness, charitable, philanthropic, humanitarian acts. At the end of the road are the Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sarabhasani, the shining, effulgent lotus feet of the Lord, who are the destination of all forward-seeking people, just like the sun in the sky. So imagine if someone with a little bit of fame, a little bit of good looks, walks in the room, everybody cranes, everybody's attracted by the sprinkling, the spark of opulence with which that person is blessed. The Krishna is called Ananta Shakti. He'll never reach an endpoint of his opulence. People worship Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Diwali's coming up. Speaking of the governor, I think that's why I brought up this example of the governor, because it's coming up again. I think it's the 24th consecutive year we've done it. That observed Diwali in the governor's mansion, and I got my invitation for, I think it's November 7th. So that's why this function is very much in the forefront of my mind. And as a part of Diwali, the celebration of Ram's defeating of Ravan, rescuing Sita, coming back to his kingdom, another celebration is that of Lakshmi, because after all, Sita is Lakshmi as well. So Diwali is very much a part of Lakshmi. When we go to the governor's mansion, Satish, the priest from Ganesh temple, does the Lakshmi puja, and he sings the Lakshmi stuta. And before that, I give a English sort of rap version of the Sri Shuktam, the prayers to Lakshmi. So Lakshmi is worshipped by people in the hopes of getting just a little drop of her mercy. Lakshmi is the goddess of fortune. She's pictured sitting or standing, most often standing, with gold coins coming out of her hands and falling into pots. There's gold everywhere, gold coins everywhere. And Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth. She's also the goddess of family values, domestic felicity. She's the goddess of peace and contentment. There are 8 symptoms of prosperity. Wealth is only one of the 8. Inner peace, good relationships, sweetness between husband and wife and parents and children. These are all good food, good, Diwali is also Thanksgiving, and we celebrate the harvest. Generally speaking, the harvest will have come in. We've here just finished all of our gardening for the year. We've got the melons, we've got butternut squash, we've got zucchinis and peppers and tomatoes, all cooked up and frozen. And Jonathan, our volunteer, has been with us this summer, has gotten pulled the irrigation pipes, rolled them up, stored them for the winter, put the ground cloth on, everything that we needed to do to sort of tuck the gardens away for the winter season. So this is a time when, if you're an agricultural-based society, the work is done. You've got enough food in your cellar and your larders and your storehouse, and you celebrate. You have some leisure time now during the winter months. You celebrate with a big feast. So that in America is called Thanksgiving. In India is called Annakut. Generally, there are at least 108 different preparations offered to Krishna on Diwali, and many temples with more devotees will go so far as to offer 1,008 preparations to Krishna. So Lakshmi is the goddess of prosperity, and prosperity is defined in at least 8 different ways. And if someone's successful in worshiping Lakshmi, if they get a little drop of Lakshmi's favor, they can be fabulously wealthy for 2 or 3 generations. Generally, by the 3rd or 4th generation, the descendants have become kind of debauched and they waste and squander the wealth. But at least for 1 or 2 generations, the family of someone who successfully got the mercy from Lakshmi is fabulously wealthy. So understand 2 things. One is, what they're getting is just a small drop of Lakshmi's potency. And secondly, Lakshmi doesn't stay. Most often when you see a picture of Lakshmi, she's standing. There are some pictures of her sitting, but that's mostly in the presence of Krishna. With respect to everybody else, she has no intention of taking up residence in your house. If some important guest comes to your door and you're flattered, you're honored, oh my gosh, so-and-so's at my door, you invite, please come in, sit down, let me get you something to drink. You want them to come And when they sit down, that's an indication that they're going to spend some time with you. Lakshmi won't do that. She won't come in. She won't accept your invitation to sit down. She'll just remain standing, which means she doesn't intend on staying more than a second or two. She's kind of doing her duty, but she's not really into hanging out with you. Her attention is focused on Krishna. She doesn't like to be separated from Krishna any longer than is minimally necessary. So when you see Lakshmi pictured, she's most often standing, which means she doesn't really want to spend much time with you. She'll give you a mercy just to get rid of you, to get you away from her so that you can go back to massaging the Lord's lotus feet. And in doing so, in getting rid of you by satisfying your self-centered desires for material prosperity, you can become fabulously wealthy. Your children can become fabulously wealthy, and that may even extend to your grandchildren. But understand, this is only a drop of Lakshmi. This is what she gives in order to free herself so she can go back to massaging Krishna's lotus feet. And though it may make you a billionaire in throughout 1 or 2 generations, it will be gone in due course of time. So it's 2 things. What Lakshmi gives to the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Zuckerbergs and the Elon Musks, it's just a drop of her Shakti. And it's only one Lakshmi, and it only lasts for a generation or 2. Krishna, on the other hand, Lakshmi Sahasra Sad Brahma Sevyamano. Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, in his prayers, the Brahma Samhita, describes Krishna as that person from whose lotus feet millions of Lakshmis cannot leave even for a second. In this world, someone successfully worships one Lakshmi, gets a drop of their mercy, comes fabulously wealthy for 1 or 2, 3 generations. So far, Krishna's concerned, millions of Lakshmis cannot leave him even for a moment. And even though he has all the wealth of millions of Lakshmis at his disposal, they're more than willing to give their prosperity, their good fortune to Krishna in order that they be allowed to associate with Krishna further. Krishna is not at all detached. There's a chapter in the Krishna book where Krishna is having a conversation with Rukmini, the chief goddess of fortune, with whom he lives in Dwarka city. And Krishna is showing his detachment, while Rukmini is revealing her incredible attachment to Krishna. Krishna is playing with her, illustrating in this chapter from the Krishna book the difference between Krishna and Lakshmi. Krishna starts saying, Rukmini, there were so many other kings headed up by Sisupal that wanted to marry you. They were all high-born. They were thoroughbred, blue-blooded Kshatriyas. Myself, nobody knows what I was. My parents were Vasudeva and Devaki. They were the kingly class, but then I went and lived with Yashoda and Mai as a cowherd boy in the dust in the cow paddies of Vrindavan. So no one knows what my background, what my class is. And yet you gave up marrying all these princes who would have died for you in order to marry me, who am dark complected, of dubious background, dubious caste. Says, if you have any second thoughts, you can go. You're still the most beautiful in the universe, and you can go. Krishna was just joking like that. He didn't mean it, but he's just playing with words. Rukmini, at the thought of being separated from Krishna, this one amongst at least 16,108 Lakshmis, started feeling dizzy. As she was standing, she started feeling dizzy. And she immediately sweated out of anxiety. And because of the drops of perspiration were literally leaping off of her skin pores in all directions. She visibly lost weight. Her bangles slid because of the slickness of the sweat and the fact that she lost weight. Her bangles slid off her wrists and started, you can just imagine them bouncing on the floor. And she almost fainted away just at the thought, in joking, that Krishna would suggest any other option than that she be married to him. I think at this point I'll bring in my Rukmini rap. I've been practicing it, and I think I'm well enough in control of it that I could share it with you now without too many flubs. Princes coming and going, guests in her father's palace, stories of Krishna unfolded. Overhearing Krishna's glories, Rukmini's heart, it beats so bold, of the one her dreams behold. Rukmini the princess, her heart set ablaze for the dark-skinned lord, worthy of praise. But her brother Rukmi had other plans, wedded to Sisapal of a demoniac clan. Rukmini sent a message to Krishna, begging him to whisk her away. I'm putting this plea in the hands of a Brahmin headed for Dwarka city. Lord, please hear my call. Set me free. What noble girl wouldn't agree? You're the husband meant for me. Come swiftly, make me your wife. Protect me from Sisapala's strife. Krishna, your beauty shines, true and pure and bright. Earthly worries, they fade from sight. To your lotus feet, my soul takes flight. Demigods have praised with offerings pure. Pious acts, our love to secure. My devotion has earned your grace. Grant that our hearts forever interlace. Mukunda, none compare to you. Integrity, charm, wisdom's embrace. A maiden's heart, you filled the space. Come set me free, Lord, from tyranny. You are the key. Krishna received Rukmini's plea from the Brahmin's hand. He mounted his chariot and set off for her father's land. Like a lion among jackals, bold and brave, Krishna swooped down, Rukmini to save. Chariot wheels turned, a chase divine, but the envious kings couldn't keep pace. With his suitors, Sisupal's army in anger they roared, but against Krishna their efforts were a flaw. With his suitor son, a chakra, Krishna made a way. Rukmini his prize at the end of day. Back in Dwarka city, celebrations did ring. Love of Krishna and Rukmini, it took wing. A tale of devotion, love so true. Rukmini reached out and Krishna came through. Two souls entwined in love's embrace, forever united beyond time and space. What noble girl wouldn't agree? Krishna, you're the husband meant for me. Come swiftly and make me your wife. Protect me from Sisupala's strife. Krishna, your beauty shines pure and bright. Earthly worries, they fade from sight. To your lotus feet, my soul takes flight. So anyone who cries out to Krishna, reciting prayers and seeking his aid, Krishna views them with special favor. He never wavers. Sooner rather than later, he carries you away from danger. He's the ever faithful savior. So let's follow Rukmini, swallow our pride, crowd to Krishna, swift chariot to ride, back home, back to the spiritual sky. So let's follow Rukmini, swallow our pride, cry out to Krishna, swift chariot to ride, back home, back to the spiritual skies. Imagine the power. Imagine, well, you couldn't even begin to imagine, but millions and millions of such Lakshmis. Like she says, demigods have praise with offerings pure, pious acts our love to secure. What noble girl wouldn't agree? Krishna, your husband meant for me. Millions and millions of Lakshmis, goddess of fortune, cannot leave Krishna's side, not even for a moment. They pray, they do tapasya, they send letters through proxies, through messengers to ask Krishna to take them away from family, friends, country, society. They do penances, austerities, and opulence, and in order to join Krishna's inner circle with the gopis. Just imagine how much opulence Krishna has. One time someone asked Prabhupada regarding Krishna's potency, can Krishna make a rock he cannot lift? And I think there are two different occasions, and Prabhupada answered in two different ways. The one that I had heard initially was that Prabhupada said, yes, Krishna can make a rock he cannot lift, and then he can lift it. He can make a rock he cannot lift, and then in the next moment he can lift it. Another answer which I heard was, Krishna has unlimited potencies and he's inscrutable. You cannot understand how his potencies act and interact. For instance, when Indra sent the clouds of universal destruction, and rain was pouring like pillars on Vrindavan, and the temperature was getting to be freezing levels, where water was rising inch by inch. Krishna leaned down and he pried up this huge mountain named Govardhan Hill, held it like an umbrella to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the cold and from the wet, the torrential rains and the winds, held it on the little finger of his left hand for 7 days, while the inhabitants of Vrindavan were warm and dry and well fed. Basically, they were having a party for the whole 7 days. We can't lift a mountain. You know, a big strong man, he might be able to lift a car. There's an excellent movie. It's about the benefits of a vegetarian diet. Is called Game Changers, produced by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan. And it talks about very strong boxers, football players who are vegans and who swear by their vegan diet. They claim that the vegan diet gives them a higher quality protein from plant-based sources. And that higher quality protein helps them recover more quickly. They can have more intense workouts more often because the inflammation, the soreness doesn't come as much. The quality of the protein is higher. Therefore, the tissues can repair themselves to come back stronger than they would as a result from the protein in a meat-based diet. So there's one man there. He's considered to be the world's strongest man. I forget what his name was. He seems to be Irish or Scotch or something. And he's just broad as a house, long sideburns. And he's considered to be the strongest man in the world. He's a vegan. Someone said, "How is it that you become strong as an ox without eating meat?" And he laughed. He said, "Well, the ox doesn't eat meat. The bull doesn't eat meat. The horse doesn't eat meat. The elephant doesn't eat meat. Most of the strongest animals in nature get their protein from the only source that's available is plant-based protein. When you eat meat to get the protein, that's secondhand because animals and people don't synthesize protein. Protein comes from the plant. So you want to get the highest quality protein, and you got to get the most usable protein. You want to get the protein that's that your tissue is going to use the highest percentage of. Then you get it from soy and legumes and split peas, and lentils and dals and things like that. So that's one thing. But they asked him in this movie, "Why did you follow this path of strength training?" And he told this heartbreaking story about how he was a little child. His family got in an automobile accident, and his mother was trapped in the car and I think perished. He was thrown clear as a little child. He was trying to get into the car. He was trying to get his mother out of the car, but he was unable to because he was just a small child and he didn't have the strength. He said that a traumatic incident from his childhood directed him to take up strength training, and now he's called, as a vegan, the strongest man in the world. So then he showed how, if I had to get somebody out of a car nowadays, I could do it. And he picked up the car, he ripped the door off the car, So now I get some mental peace knowing at least theoretically I could save my mom. So this is the world's strongest man, and he can pick up a car with one hand on the bumper, and he can rip the door off the car with the other hand, but he could not lift a mountain with the little finger of his left hand and hold it aloof for 7 days. Only Krishna, who has Ananta Shakti, can do it. So Prabhupada said, you can't lift Govardhan Hill. The strongest man in the world cannot lift Govardhan Hill. Krishna can lift Govardhan Hill. He can do what we can't do because he has Ananta Shakti. But what we can do, we can't lift Govardhan Hill, but we can lift slippers every day. We lean down, we move our slippers here and there, and we put them on our feet. Slippers weigh just a few ounces. So we can't lift Govardhan Hill, but we can lift slippers. So what we can't lift, Krishna lifts. And what we can lift, Krishna finds too heavy. We read in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto that in the home of Nanda Maharaj, little baby Krishna used to lift Nanda Maharaj's slippers and carry them to Nanda on his head. He would support the slipper because he was presenting himself as a small, weak child with undeveloped, flaccid muscles. And so the best means of portage that he could devise for carrying the featherweight slippers of Nanda Maharaj is on his head. But we can lift slippers. But Krishna, out of love, and by role playing as the son of Nanda Maharaj and in a toddler's phase, that which we can easily lift, he pretends he can't lift. So that which we can't lift, he can lift easily. Said that when Krishna held the huge mountain on the little finger of his left hand, it was like a child holding a mushroom or cotton balls. But what to us is light as cotton balls, virtually a pair of slippers, Krishna can't lift them because he's playing the role of Nanda Maharaj's little son. He's putting them on his head, bearing the weight of the slippers on his head, and then he's kind of stumbling over. He's just learning how to walk. And so he brings Nanda Maharaj his slippers. This is an unlimited potency. And then how he uses that potency is also inscrutable to human beings. How the one who lifted Govardhan Hill cannot lift a pair of slippers. How are you going to understand that? It has only to do with the crooked ways of love. During the churning of the ocean of milk, when the demigods and demons were churning the ocean of milk, they had Mandala Mountain, which is a huge mountain, and they were using that as the churning rod. They were using Vashuki as the rope for churning. And they were churning this ocean of milk to see what would come out of it. Lakshmi, incidentally, was one of the byproducts. But the problem is, there was nothing to hold the ocean, the mountain up. It's a huge mountain. And so it was sinking. It was sinking down. So the Lord appeared as a tortoise in his Kurma incarnation with, as it happened, an itch on his back. Top of his shell had an itch, which he couldn't alleviate by any other means. Tortoise can't reach around. Tortoise doesn't, we can kind of get to just about everywhere if we really contort ourselves. But a tortoise, he has this big shell, he has these little tiny legs and head. So if he has an itch, he's tough luck. So Krishna, inconceivably, amazingly, wonderfully, fantastically, if you heard our class today, was looking for some way to scratch the itch on his back. And he happened, come by, saw that this mountain was being churned, and thought that if he could get under the mountain and get that sweet spot, just get right at the base of the mountain under the water. Tortoises also are quite comfortable. They're amphibians, so they're quite comfortable in the water. He dove underneath the water, and just as Krishna dove underneath and supported Govardhan Hill with a little finger, his left hand, Korma, he held the mountain up and took advantage of the fact that they were churning it to get the itch on its back relieved. And throughout this whole pastime, the demigods and even churning this vast ocean of milk and all kinds of things being brought, there were bubbles coming up from underneath the surface. And it's described that these bubbles are Korma. A little bit to the left. Oh, and then he shifts a little bit. Oh. Like we have this scarlet macaw, Oscar. He has certain sweet spots. He just goes into a trance. The place where his beak joins his head, there's a little patch of feathers there. If you scratch right where the beak comes to the head. He closes his eyes and he just goes into a trance. Another place he likes is his ears. They don't actually have ears. They just kind of have ear holes. But if you scrub his ear holes, he'll start to go like this. So there's certain, everybody has their sweet spots. And especially when there's an itch, it feels particularly exotic, let's say, to have something, some friction against that itch. So the bubbles that were rising from beneath the surface of the ocean were the exhalations of Korma, expressing relief and satisfaction because this huge mountain being churned on a cosmic level, epic level, was alleviating the itch on his back. So we've begun our discussion today on the fact that Krishna has unlimited potencies, even attracting millions and millions of goddesses of fortune who cannot leave him for a moment. And now we've just begun to discuss how Krishna wields those potencies in ways that are unpredictable, inscrutable, wonderful, and amazing for us. We'll pursue this tomorrow with more examples of how Krishna uses his unlimited potency in fantastic ways. Well, let's see what Vallaba Chandra has here for us today. Lakshmi never stays, though we try to persuade her in so many ways. She'd rather be massaging the Lord's lotus feet. So don't try to offer her a permanent seat. Use what she gives you for devotional service, or hoard her mercy and stay forever anxious and nervous. Nice, beautiful. Lakshmi never stays, though we try to persuade her in so many ways. She'd rather be massaging the Lord's lotus feet. So don't try to offer a permanent seat. Use what she gives you for devotional service, or hoard her mercy and stay forever anxious and nervous. Nice. Britta says, I wish our culture would come to understand the 8 symptoms of wealth. Yeah, we're fixed on money, not so much on domestic felicity, inner contentment, good, robust, vibrant, glowing health. What use is a unhealthy, chronically ill man? Of what use to him is all the money in the world? Well, health is actually more valuable than wealth, because if you don't have health, you certainly can't enjoy your wealth. For one thing, as one example. Bye, Bobby. Thanks for joining us. Mahatma from south of the border. Dutch. Hare Krishna. Kelly from Idaho. Thank you all so much for being with us on Transcendental Tuesday. Facebook shows six people right now live, in addition to the ones in the comment section. So thank you for commenting. Thank you for participating and partnering. Thank you if you're just listening, you're not commentary. This will be posted on Facebook, so anybody can access it throughout the day as well. And we also put this on YouTube, so there'll be quite a few more people who, as they're able, can access these teachings. That gives me great pleasure. We'll be back tomorrow with more discussion on the amazing ways that Krishna uses his unlimited power. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare